In the quiet moments before a great shift, there is a realization that every thought, every whispered word, and every silent action throughout a lifetime has been a preparation. It is as if the individual is a vessel being slowly filled, drop by drop, with the experiences and the resolve necessary to step into the light of responsibility. This journey into leadership does not begin with a title or a formal coronation. It begins in the internal landscape, where a person decides to become more than they were yesterday. Imagine a figure standing at the edge of a vast, uncharted forest, where the mist clings to the trees and the path ahead is obscured by the unknown. This figure represents the potential within every person who senses the call to lead. It is a moment of profound gravity, where the weight of the past meets the possibility of the future. The atmosphere is thick with the scent of pine and the cold, crisp air of anticipation. Here, the story of leadership truly starts, not as a destination reached, but as an expedition that has been years in the making. Every hardship endured, every success celebrated, and every failure contemplated has served as a silent tutor, molding the character into a form capable of guiding others. The world outside this internal space is vast and varied, ranging from the intimate confines of a family home to the sprawling glass towers of global commerce. Leadership is seen in the parent who organizes a household with grace and firm intent, and it is seen in the visionary who founds a startup in a small garage, operating as the sole architect of a dream. It is present in the coach who inspires a group of children on a muddy field on a Saturday morning, and in the director of a nonprofit seeking to change the lives of the vulnerable in the American continent. There is a universal quality to this art of inspiration and organization. The skills required to navigate a family through a crisis are not so different from those needed to steer a multinational board of directors through a global economic shift. This realization bridges the gap between the mundane and the magnificent, suggesting that greatness is found in the quality of the action rather than the scale of the stage. The quiet strength required to lead a local volunteer group is the same fire that burns within the hearts of those who lead nations. As the narrative unfolds, a subtle tension begins to emerge. While many feel the pull toward leadership, the path is fraught with complexities that few are truly prepared to navigate. The air feels heavy with the expectations of those who wait for a guide. There is a global hunger for voices that speak with clarity and hearts that beat with courage. In every corner of the world, from the vibrant streets of Latin America to the historic halls of Europe, there is a visible struggle for direction. Governments grapple with their own identity, often failing to find the focus necessary to lead their communities or even themselves. Corporations find themselves besieged by competition and technological shifts that move faster than their ability to adapt. The sense of urgency is palpable, like a low hum that vibrates through the foundations of society. People are looking for something more than a figurehead. They are looking for a presence that can anchor them in the storm. This setting sets the stage for a transformation, where the listener is invited to see themselves not as they are, but as they could be. The question that hangs in the balance is not whether one can lead, but whether one has the courage to pick up the tools and begin the work of refining the self for the sake of the many. To understand the landscape of modern leadership, one must look at the fractures and the triumphs that define the current era. In various sectors, the need for steady hands and clear minds has never been more acute. Imagine the bustling environment of a public hospital in a large city in England, where the limits of capacity are tested daily. The halls are filled with the sounds of urgency, the rhythmic beep of monitors, the hurried footsteps of staff, and the soft murmurs of those in need. In such an environment, the absence of leadership is not just a theoretical problem. It is a visceral reality that affects the quality of human life. Similarly, in the high-stakes world of professional sports, the constant churn of coaches and managers reveals a desperate search for consistency, a quest for a leader who can unify a group of individuals into a singular, unstoppable force. These scenarios are not isolated incidents, but symptoms of a broader phenomenon. The world is a collection of systems that require a catalyst to function at their peak, and that catalyst is the individual who is willing to take the helm. Deep within the communities of the home region, the cracks often appear in the most trusted institutions. From local neighborhood associations to the sacred spaces of spiritual gatherings, scandals and crises of faith often point back to a singular failure, a lack of strong, ethical leadership. When a family unit lives in a state of perpetual conflict, it is often because the guiding light of leadership has been extinguished or never truly lit. This thematic landscape is one of both shadows and light. For every story of a leader who failed to meet the moment, there is the potential for another who will rise to exceed it. The listener is encouraged to look around their own life and identify those who represent the pinnacle of success. Perhaps it is a high-profile figure like a global entrepreneur, or perhaps it is someone much closer, a former teacher who saw potential where others saw trouble, or a business partner whose integrity remains unshaken in the face of temptation. These figures serve as the constellations by which a new leader might navigate. The foundation of this narrative is built upon the idea that the world is waiting. There is a space in the market, in the community, and in the heart that only a leader can fill. Many people possess a vast arsenal of tools, innate talents, hard-won wisdom, and natural charisma. Yet these resources often remain underutilized, gathering dust in the back of the mind. At the same time, many cling to weaknesses and insecurities as if they were protective armor, when in reality, they are the very chains that prevent progress. The story moves forward with the understanding that the journey of leadership is an invitation to reflection. It is a chance to ponder how one wishes to grow, how one desires to create a legacy, and how one will be remembered by those they guided through the darkness. The tension lies in the gap between who the person is and the leader the world needs them to become. This gap is not a void, but a bridge, and the first step across it is a proactive search for the very things that most people try to avoid. The challenges that define the soul. The characters in this unfolding drama are not merely names on a page, but archetypes of the human experience. There is the reluctant leader, who feels the weight of responsibility, but fears the exposure of the spotlight. There is the aspiring visionary, full of ideas, but lacking the discipline to bring them to fruition. And then there is the figure of the successful leader, someone who has mastered the art of self-regulation and external influence. This character is not born with a scepter. They are forged in the fires of daily habits and consistent choices. They are the ones who have learned that leadership is not a state of being, but a series of actions. The central struggle presented is the internal conflict between the desire for comfort and the necessity of growth. To stay in the safe, well-lit harbor of the known is a natural human instinct, But to lead is to be a navigator of the deep, where the waves are unpredictable and the shore is far behind. This philosophical perspective shifts the focus from what a leader is to what a leader does. It suggests that the essence of leadership is found in the proactive engagement with the world. A successful leader is depicted as someone who doesn't wait for the storm to break before they check the sails. They are the individuals who are constantly scanning the horizon, looking for the subtle shifts in the wind that signal a change in the weather. This proactive stance is the defining characteristic that separates those who merely occupy a position of authority from those who truly lead. The narrative introduces the idea that one must hunt for challenges as if they were hidden treasures. It is a counterintuitive concept, seeking out problems, looking for friction, and deliberately stepping into the path of difficulty. The character of the leader is someone who understands that strength is not built in ease, but in the resistance of the heavy lift. As the story begins to move, we see a small but significant development. A potential leader, perhaps sitting in a quiet office in a city in Spain or standing in a warehouse in Latin America, realizes that their current path has become too smooth. There is a lack of resistance, and with that lack comes a stagnation of the spirit. They look at their team, their project, or their family and see the missed opportunities that lie hidden beneath the surface of good enough. This realization acts as a spark. They decide to raise their hand, not to ask for permission, but to offer themselves for the tasks that others have shunned. They seek the difficult project, the fractured department, or the complex negotiation. This small act of volition signals a shift in the narrative momentum. The leader is no longer a passive observer of their own life. They have become the protagonist of an expedition. The tension now shifts from will they lead to how will they handle the challenges they have so boldly sought out. This is the beginning of the hunt, where the stakes are about to be raised and the true mettle of the character will be tested. The expedition moves deeper into the wilderness of the unknown. Leadership is described here as a journey into territories where the maps are incomplete and the terrain is constantly shifting. The leader is now at the head of a group, and the responsibility for their collective safety and success rests upon their shoulders. This is the stage where the main narrative thread deepens, adding layers to the concept of the proactive hunt. It is not enough to simply find a challenge. One must understand the nature of the beast. Challenges come in many forms. They might be the bright, alluring opportunities of a new market in the American continent, or the dark, looming threats of a technological disruption that could render an entire industry obsolete. The tension rises as the leader realizes that every challenge carries with it a dual nature: the potential for a breakthrough and the risk of a catastrophic failure. In this phase, early friction begins to manifest. It is not just the external problems that test the leader, but the internal dynamics of the team. When a leader decides to proactively seek out challenges, they are often moving faster than those they lead. This creates a natural contrast between the leader's vision and the team's desire for stability. The air in the meeting rooms becomes charged with a new energy, a mixture of excitement and apprehension. Some team members might embrace the new direction, while others may feel the weight of the additional work and the uncertainty of the outcome. The leader must navigate these emotional currents with sensitivity and strength. They are no longer just a problem solver. They are a psychological anchor for their followers. The stakes are raised as the leader recognizes that their own visibility is tied to the success of these difficult missions. They have stepped under the spotlight, and the eyes of the higher-ups, the executives, the community elders, or the board members, are now firmly fixed upon them. The conceptual stakes are further heightened by the introduction of the visibility factor. By raising their hand and volunteering for the arduous tasks, the leader has distinguished themselves from the crowd. They are now seen as the person to turn to when things get tough. This is a double-edged sword. While it opens doors to career advancement and greater influence, it also means that their failures will be more visible and their mistakes more scrutinized. The narrative momentum builds as the leader prepares to face their first major self-selected obstacle. They are no longer waiting for the crisis to come to them. They are the ones initiating the engagement. This moment of transition propels the story toward a deeper exploration of what it truly means to be the one who goes first. The leader stands at the threshold of a significant trial, where the decision to move forward is no longer just a professional choice, but a defining moment of their identity. The quiet confidence they felt in the beginning is now being tested by the reality of the mounting pressure and the complexity of the task at hand. As the leader dives into the complexities of the self-selected challenge, the narrative texture becomes richer and more detailed. The scene shifts to a regular brainstorming session, a ritual of discovery where the leader and their team gather to unmask the hidden obstacles of their environment. The room is filled with the low murmur of voices, the scratching of pens on paper, and the soft glow of screens displaying data. The leader encourages a culture of radical honesty, where even the smallest concerns are brought to the light. This is not just a tactical exercise. It is an emotional and intellectual deep dive into the health of the organization. They look for the rising difficulty in hiring talent in their home region, noting how the changing landscape of work has made the traditional methods obsolete. They discuss the depleting stock of essential raw materials in a factory in Europe, realizing that the supply chain is far more fragile than they had previously assumed. The thematic symbols of the story begin to emerge through these discussions. The depleting stock is not just about physical goods. It represents the erosion of resources and the need for renewed vision. The aging workforce and the lack of successors in key roles highlight the temporal nature of leadership and the vital importance of planting trees under whose shade one will never sit. The leader listens as team members speak of tensions between departments, invisible walls that have been built up over years of neglect. Through these dialogues, the leader begins to weave a new narrative for the organization. They are the architect of a new bridge, the gardener of a new culture. The pacing of the story slows down here, allowing for the weight of these reflections to settle. The leader is not just acting, they are thinking, feeling, and connecting. They are becoming more attuned to the subtle rhythms of their world. However, in the midst of this deep exploration, a subtle shift in tone occurs. The leader realizes that their enthusiasm for seeking challenges might have a darker side. They see the fatigue in the eyes of their team, the slight slump in the shoulders of a dedicated employee who is now working longer hours to meet the demands of these new projects. The internal dialogue of the leader becomes one of caution. They must be careful not to hunt for problems just because they exist, or to be seen as someone who finds ghosts in every corner. There is a fine line between being proactive and being obsessive. The realization hits that leadership is as much about restraint as it is about action. A leader who creates unnecessary work for their team out of a personal desire for visibility risks losing the very trust and motivation they seek to inspire. This beat of realization adds a new layer of maturity to the character. They understand that the hunt must be purposeful, and the challenges must be worthy of the team's sacrifice. The focus shifts from merely finding obstacles to evaluating their significance, leading to a more nuanced and strategic approach to the expedition. The narrative now introduces a complication that threatens to derail the leader's progress. It is the paradox of the successful hunter. What happens when the hunt itself becomes the problem? The leader's team begins to show signs of quiet rebellion. The friction that was once a productive spark has turned into a slow burn of resentment. In the break rooms and during the informal gatherings in the home region, the whispers are no longer about the excitement of the new projects, but about the perceived lack of focus. Why are we looking for more trouble when we have enough on our plates? They ask. The leader is tested by this internal contradiction. Their commitment to growth is being questioned by the very people they need to achieve it. This is a moment of profound isolation for the leader. They are caught between their vision for the future and the immediate needs of their people for stability and peace. This complication deepens as an external threat manifests. A new competitor, perhaps from a distant market in the American continent, launches a product at a price point that undercuts the leader's own organization. The proactive hunt for challenges has led the leader to anticipate many things, but the speed and aggression of this new threat are staggering. The leader is now forced to confront a reality where multiple challenges are converging at once. The internal tension with the team, the depletion of raw materials, and the new market threat create a perfect storm of pressure. The ideas that the leader has championed, bravery, visibility, and proactive engagement, are now being pushed to their absolute limits. They must decide which fires to fight and which to let burn. The conceptual foundation of their leadership is under fire. Is it truly better to seek out these challenges, or would they have been better off staying in the quiet safety of their original position? The narrative intensity increases as the leader realizes that ignoring these challenges is no longer an option. The tension remains unresolved, hanging in the air like a heavy fog. The leader must now engage in a delicate balancing act. They have to convince their team that the challenges they are facing are not unnecessary burdens, but essential battles for their collective survival. They must navigate the complexities of resource allocation, deciding how to respond to the competitor while simultaneously addressing the internal issues of succession and department tension. This is the moment where the leader's skill in communication and motivation is most critical. They are no longer just identifying problems. They are managing a crisis of their own making. The momentum of the story is now propelled toward a peak of decision-making. The inevitability of a confrontation with the most significant challenge of all becomes clear. The leader stands at a crossroads where every choice has a cost, and the path forward is anything but certain. As the story moves toward its turning point, the pacing quickens, reflecting the mounting pressure on the leader. The details of the environment become more vivid and sensory. The leader is often the last to leave the office, the glow of their desk lamp a solitary beacon in the darkened building. Outside, the world continues its relentless pace, but inside, time seems to compress. The weight of the upcoming decision is palpable. The leader is preparing to launch a comprehensive action plan, one that will address the competitor's threat, the internal team friction, and the resource shortages all at once. This is the all-in moment. The stakes are no longer just professional visibility. They are the very survival of the mission they have undertaken. The emotional focus narrows down to the leader's internal resolve. They must find the strength to lead their team through the eye of the storm. In this approach to the climax, the narrative emphasizes the sense of inevitability. The challenges that were once sought out have now become an inescapable reality. The leader spends hours with their key collaborators, analyzing every angle of the problem. They seek consensus, knowing that without the team's full commitment, the plan will fail. They discuss the acquisition of resources, the necessary approvals from the board in Europe, and the precise timing of their response. There is a sense of a great machine being primed for action. The leader's voice, once filled with the excitement of discovery, is now steady and resolute. The atmosphere is one of intense focus, like the silence that falls before a great orchestra begins its first note. Every detail matters. Every conversation is a building block toward the final resolution. The mounting pressure is further intensified by the personal toll on the leader. The long hours and the constant stress have begun to wear on them, but they cannot afford to show weakness. They are the pillar upon which the team leans. This part of the story captures the quiet heroism of leadership, the ability to carry the burden of uncertainty so that others can move with confidence. The meaning of the expedition is crystallizing. It is not about the glory of the hunt, but the responsibility of the catch. The leader understands that they are about to step into the most intense phase of their journey. There is no more room for hesitation. The plan is set, the resources are gathered, and the team is as ready as they will ever be. The narrative closes with a sense of immense gravity as the leader prepares to give the final signal to begin the confrontation. The next few moments will define everything they have worked for. The turning point arrives with the force of a sudden storm. The leader stands before their entire organization, from the assembly lines in the industrial units to the creative teams in the home region. This is the moment where the proactive hunt culminates in a decisive confrontation with reality. The leader presents the plan, a bold, risky maneuver to pivot the organization's focus, directly challenging the new competitor while simultaneously restructuring internal departments to eliminate the long-standing tensions. It is a moment of raw, unadulterated leadership. The air is thick with anticipation as the leader speaks, their words cutting through the uncertainty like a blade. They do not sugarcoat the difficulty of the path ahead. Instead, they honor the sacrifice that will be required. The revelation is clear. The challenge they sought was not just a business problem to be solved, but a catalyst for a fundamental transformation of who they are as a collective. The intensity of the sequence is captured in the reactions of the people. There is a moment of stunned silence, a collective breath held in the lungs of hundreds. Then, the first signs of movement begin, a nod of agreement from a seasoned manager, a look of renewed determination in the eyes of a young designer. The leader's decision to face the most dangerous threat head-on, rather than retreating into a defensive posture, changes the entire trajectory of the organization. In the heart of the American continent, where the competitor had gained ground, the leader's plan begins to take effect. It is a grueling process, filled with long nights and high-stakes negotiations. There are moments of doubt, times when the complexity seems overwhelming, but the leader remains the unwavering center of the operation. This is the peak of the narrative, where the internal and external conflicts reach their climax and begin to find their resolution through the fire of action. As the most critical phase of the plan is executed, a profound transformation occurs. The leader is no longer just the person who raised their hand. They are the one who navigated the storm. The revelation that emerges from this peak is that leadership is not about the absence of problems, but about the quality of one's engagement with them. The tension begins to shift into clarity. The competitor's advance is halted. The internal divisions begin to heal as people work together toward a common, urgent goal, and the resource shortages are addressed through innovative new partnerships. The leader sees the fruits of their proactive stance. By choosing to face the challenge on their own terms, they have seized the initiative and redefined the rules of the game. The story transitions into a new phase of consequence, where the immediate aftermath of this great effort begins to reveal itself, marking the end of the struggle and the beginning of a new era. The immediate aftermath of the climax is a period of profound stillness and reflection. The frantic energy of the confrontation has dissipated, leaving behind a landscape that has been irrevocably changed. The leader sits alone for a moment, perhaps looking out over a city in Latin America as the sun begins to rise. The physical and emotional exhaustion is deep, but it is accompanied by a quiet sense of accomplishment. The first wave of consequences is visible. The competitor has retreated, the team has found a new sense of unity, and the organization is moving with a purpose it hasn't felt in years. The shift is visceral. People walk with a different gait. The air in the hallways feels lighter, as if a great weight has been lifted. The leader's visibility has reached its peak, and they are now regarded with a new level of respect and trust. However, this aftermath also carries the scars of the battle. The leader reflects on the cost of the expedition. They think of the stress their team endured, the long hours that can never be recovered, and the moments of intense friction that nearly tore the group apart. This is the raw reality of proactive leadership. It is never free. The situational shift is not just about success. It is about the maturation of the entire system. The team members who were once skeptical now see the necessity of the challenges they faced. They have grown stronger, more resilient, and more capable because they were pushed beyond their comfort zones. The leader recognizes that their role has changed. They are no longer the one who has to pull the team along. The team has discovered its own momentum. A breath of space is allowed in the narrative, a pause that lets the weight of these events settle into the consciousness of the listener. This is a time for integration. The leader realizes that the hunt is not a one-time event, but a permanent state of mind. Yet, the intensity must be managed. They take this time to reconnect with their people, not to discuss the next challenge, but to honor the one they just overcame. They listen to the stories of those who were on the front lines, acknowledging the individual contributions that made the collective victory possible. This period of quiet after the storm is essential for healing and for building the foundation for the next chapter. The transformation is not just in the organizational charts or the market share, but in the hearts of those who lived through the experience. The leader has become the exemplar they were meant to be, and the aftermath is the first glimpse of the legacy they are building. As the dust settles, the deeper consequences of the leader's journey begin to take root. The resolution of the immediate crisis gives way to a more stable and sustainable way of operating. The organization has not just survived, it has evolved. The lesson learned through the fire of proactive challenge seeking is now being woven into the very fabric of the culture. The brainstorming sessions that were once exercises in discovery are now the lifeblood of the company, with everyone from the lowest level employee to the highest executive actively looking for ways to improve and grow. The transformation is both internal and external. Externally, the organization is seen as a leader in its field, a pioneer that others look to for inspiration in the American continent and beyond. Internally, there is a newfound sense of psychological safety and shared purpose. The leader reflects on the inner shift that has occurred within themselves. They are no longer driven by a need for visibility or a desire to prove their worth. Those things have come naturally as a result of their commitment to the work itself. The arsenal of tools they once possessed in a fragmented state has now been forged into a coherent and powerful set of skills. They have learned the art of discernment, knowing which challenges to pursue with vigor and which to let go of. They have found the balance between the hunt and the harvest. This resolution is not just about the end of a conflict, but about the beginning of a higher level of functioning. The leader has become a creator of other leaders. They see their team members taking on their own challenges, raising their hands for difficult tasks, and mentoring those below them. The transition toward closure is seamless and natural. The narrative shows the leader stepping back slightly, allowing others to take the spotlight. This is the ultimate sign of a successful leader, the ability to create a system that can flourish in their absence. The emotional settling that occurs in this phase is profound. There is a sense of peace that comes from knowing that the difficult path was the right one. The leader looks at the 100 things they have been learning and realizes that each one is a thread in a larger tapestry. The proactive search for challenges was the thread that gave the tapestry its strength and its vibrant color. As they move toward the end of this particular expedition, they are already looking toward the horizon, not with anxiety, but with the quiet confidence of someone who knows that whatever comes, they have the tools and the heart to face it. The story is moving toward its final synthesis, where the meaning of the journey will be fully revealed. Drawing together the threads of this narrative, we find a coherent reflection on the nature of leadership. It is an art that requires both the courage of a pioneer and the wisdom of a sage. The journey of proactively seeking challenges is revealed as a fundamental principle of human growth. It is the refusal to accept the status quo, the willingness to embrace the uncomfortable, and the commitment to constant evolution. This thematic significance goes beyond the walls of any organization or the boundaries of any one region like Europe or England. It is a universal truth. We are defined not by the ease of our lives, but by the weight of the challenges we choose to carry. The leader in this story represents the potential within every individual to transcend their limitations and become a force for positive change in the world. This synthesis illuminates the broader philosophical meaning of the expedition. Leadership is not about having all the answers. It is about having the courage to ask the hardest questions. It is about the mindset, the internal orientation that views every obstacle as an opportunity and every failure as a lesson. The narrative has shown that the act of leading is a form of service. By seeking out the challenges that others avoid, the leader protects their community, strengthens their organization, and inspires their followers. They create a space where others can find their own strength and their own voice. This is the true power of leadership, the ability to multiply greatness in others. The resonant idea that emerges is that the best leaders are those who are never finished growing. They are perpetual students of their environment, always looking for the next way to serve and the next mountain to climb. As the final message begins to take shape, the listener is invited to reflect on their own arsenal of tools. What are the skills and talents that have been lying dormant? What are the weaknesses that have been held onto for too long? The story has been a mirror, reflecting the possibilities of a life lived with proactive intent. It suggests that the journey of leadership is available to anyone, at any time, in any place. Whether one is leading a family, a small local group, or a global corporation, the principles remain the same. The call is to step out of the shadows of passivity and into the light of action. The narrative prepares the listener for the final closing insight, leaving them with the understanding that the most successful leaders are those who do not wait for the world to change, but who take it upon themselves to be the change they wish to see. The expedition continues, but the map is now in the hands of the listener. In the final moments of this journey, we find ourselves back where we started, at the internal threshold of the self. The narrative concludes with a sense of profound clarity. Successful leadership, as we have seen, is not a grand, unattainable ideal reserved for the few. It is a path built from the daily habit of choosing growth over comfort. The essence of the message is simple yet revolutionary. To lead is to be the one who goes first into the difficult places. It is the act of raising one's hand and saying, "I will take this on." This proactive spirit is the heart of every success story, from the small triumphs of a well-run household to the historic achievements of the world's most influential figures. The legacy of a leader is not found in the challenges they avoided, but in the ones they sought out and overcame with integrity and grace. As we look back on the story of the leader who hunted for challenges, we see a life lived with purpose and meaning. They have transformed not only their organization and their team, but themselves. They have discovered that the visibility they once sought was merely a byproduct of their commitment to excellence and their willingness to serve. The broader lesson is that every problem we face is an invitation to lead. Whether it is a conflict in the family, a gap in the market, or a crisis in the community, these are the moments that call for the leader within us to step forward. We are encouraged to embrace the complexity of our world, not with fear, but with the excitement of an explorer who knows that the most valuable treasures are found in the most challenging terrains. Ultimately, the story leaves us with a reflective and inspiring takeaway. The journey of leadership is a lifelong endeavor, a continuous cycle of discovery, action, and reflection. It is about the 100 things we do, big and small, that prepare us for the moments that matter. The invitation is now open to everyone. There is a world out there waiting for the leadership only you can provide. It is time to look around your environment, to identify the challenges that are waiting to be faced, and to proactively step toward them. Do not wait for the perfect moment or the formal title. Start where you are, with what you have, and have the courage to be the one who leads. As the final notes of this narrative settle, may you be left with the clarity to see your path and the resolve to walk it, hunting for the challenges that will turn you into the leader you were always meant to become.